Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Are Forza podcast. Today we have the real Dr. Deluxe with us. Hi, how are you doing?
Good, really good.
Hmm. It's very nice to have you here with me and talking.
Glad to be.
We're going to talk a little about your liveries and Forza, of course. That's what we talk about. And maybe we are going to talk about some other stuff too. We will see how it goes. So,
Sure.
we'll start making some. Well, I will start asking some questions about Forza and you, so we will see how everything started. So, what's the first Forza game you have ever played?
The very first one.
The,
The
so the
very first one that has the Subaru on the cover. And
okay.
I believe it
Mhm.
also it was previous to internet connectivity. So there was a cool little feature that allowed you to download your Drivatar, and
Mhm.
I could give it to my friend who would take it
Yeah.
home and race me.
Oh.
Because up until the first Forza game, he and I would race on PlayStation. What was it? Colin McRae Rally, and we take
Mhm.
turns doing stages. So we didn't really compete against each other, but we'd have to go to his house or my house to play.
Okay.
So that's kind of the beginnings, the Neanderthal beginnings of prior
Okay.
to internet play, which some of these kids may never have
Yeah, I
experienced.
know. They don't know how it's to go to school without Google.
Yeah. Is that a phone
Well,
booth? What's a phone booth?
yes. Um, what's your favorite car?
Oh gosh, I knew you were asking Yaricon and some others, but it's like, oh, I like them all really. My uncle had an Isetta. I wouldn't say it's a favorite car, but I think it's really really neat. And when I was little, it made an impact on me because when he got out of it, he came out of the front and the steering wheel kind of folds over to one side. So I thought that was pretty cool. And about the same time, I was really into James Bond. So uh, the DB4, I believe, Aston Martin,
Okay. Yeah.
made a huge impact on me with Sean Connery at behind the wheel
Yeah.
because of what it could do. And you don't want to be a passenger and tick them off.
Okay. 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 It's a nice
But
choice.
the one that I think the one car in the 60s that had me running home from school was the Batmobile with Adam West,
Okay.
the
Okay.
original Batmobile. Yeah.
Okay. I have to confess I don't know which one is. I need to go to Google and find it out.
We need to get Forza to put some of those in the game.
Would be nice. Hey, Forza, please.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we can suggest in the new uh, place for suggesting cars in the Forza in the forums. They have all
Lotus
the
Lotus
hub, the
Europa.
suggestion hub.
The Lotus Europa. That is a cool little car that I can't fit in, but if I can drive it in Forza, that'd be fun.
Yes, that would be
And
fun.
put a big V12 in it. Oh yeah, broken vegetable. If the car can go V10 or V12, that's what he puts in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, what's your favorite track?
My what? Favorite?
Favorite track?
Oh, favorite track.
Circuit. Yes, circuit. Sorry.
We go to Forza. We go to Forza Motorsport.
Mm.
Laguna Seca had to have been one of my favorites, but the problem I have with it is you can't race it in the dark. If you wanted to do a Le Mans 24-hour race, you couldn't do it in the dark, which kind of really took away a little bit from it. And even the lighting conditions, just having it one setting, kind of maybe they're going to rectify that with that new Forza 8 Motorsport.
Yeah.
Because it looks pretty wild with that Maple Valley.
Yep.
They did that kind of like preview of what to expect, and
Yeah.
I'm expecting a lot.
Yeah. So I guess you are really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No.
To be honest with you, I like all the tracks. I don't really have a problem driving them. It's
No.
it's usually if in a multiplayer and you got people banging into you and dive bombing you, that distracts from enjoying a track. But for
Yeah.
the most part, I don't really have a favorite or a track I
Okay.
don't like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. So yeah. So if you don't have a least favorite track, yeah. You just have the favorite.
No, you
Yeah.
look at my list. Oh yeah, there. No, I
Yeah.
like them all. I like them
Okay.
all.
When did you realize you were a car guy?
Um, Probably a week out of the womb.
Okay.
my dad, my my dad loved cars.
Yeah.
He was unabashedly so. And I found when I was going through some old photos of my grandpa, who I never met because he passed away the night before my parents were initially going to get married.
Mm.
They waited a month and had their wedding later because of
Yeah.
my grandpa Lester passing away.
Yeah.
So I got to see some pictures, and he was a car guy. I mean, he loved the Packards. My dad remembers the Packards. My grandpa would take him down to Florida in the Packard, and my dad, when he was in high school, used to drag race some of the other guys and always beat them. And he used to brag about that later on, not when I was young and impressionable, because he didn't want me drag racing.
Okay.
But yeah. So I got it from an early age. Growing up, even when I was like 3 and 4, I always would run to the door when my dad came home in the pickup truck.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot. There was a lot going on when I was little that I just loved vehicles, and my mom embarrassingly had to. She's somebody that doesn't swear, but she remembers when I was about 3 or 4, and if I saw a truck outside, I wouldn't call it a truck. I would use the F word.
Yeah, I know.
But it kind of for rock.
Yeah.
And I would
I know.
scream it. I would scream it loud, even if I was in public with my mom. My mom was like, oh, "You had me so worried," but because I was little, it didn't. If you did that at 23, you thought, well, this guy must
Yeah, I know.
must need to be in a rubber room or something.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have that's I think it's fun because yeah, my kid. I have 2 kids and they also did the same. I think for them it's very hard to say tr, so they just go f.
Yeah, it's amazing. All my nieces and cousins, all when they were little, had some form of, I wouldn't call it a speech impediment. I just think we all learned in our home what we hear. We try to phonetically mimic it, and mimic is a form of friendship too. But when you're little, I found that with my little nieces especially, and I found it cute, and I wanted one of them to record my answering machine. And suddenly she got really, oh no, she was really embarrassed about it. And so I let it go, but it would have been cute to have her answer the phone for me. A recorded message. I wouldn't actually have her tied up in my house to answer my phone.
Okay.
I'm not that diabolical.
Yeah. And now let's see. What does your GT mean? Where does it come from? The real DRDELUX?
Oh, the gamer tag is quite interesting.
Are there more than one DRDELUX?
Yeah, I started off with DRDELUX.
Okay.
And the reason behind that is I felt like I was, doctoring up a car and giving it a nice paint job and healing it from the ugliness that was the boring plain car. So it evolved because there's stuff I won't go into because privacy. I preferred people not to know and give away my name. But there's some nods to that. There's also like the Ford Deluxe, the Ford car, the Ford Deluxe 2-door. It can be almost my what do you call it? My theme car or my mascot. And then they come out with the Woody, and it's a super deluxe, and I think, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dr. Deluxe started off simple, but then I had lightning strike near my house, and it took out my 360's use of the internet, and that's when I switched it up and put a lightning bolt in the forehead of the skull, and I soon had to find out that I couldn't get my old profile back, so I went, what can I do here? There's so many people who got this and that and everything else, and I thought, oh yeah, the real Dr. Deluxe, but I did it with upper lowercase so that it was unique, and it's done really well.
Okay, so
I've had people that like my gamer tag more than my livery designs.
So let's say that the other Dr. Deluxe is also you.
You were frozen there for a second. I wasn't sure if I.
Okay, no, I can hear you. Your image head was a little frozen, but your voice was okay. So that's why I just kept talking, because the important is the voice, not the image.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
No.
I still can hear you well. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you a question that maybe you have to think a little before answering. And well, what does Forza mean to you?
It's liberating to be able to paint a car and race it, whereas in the past, really didn't have much choice. So you'd get a car with a number 12 on the side of it, and you'd be racing against the same car with a number 12 on the side of it. So for me, it really became my new hobby, because when I was young, I used to make models. I used to paint them. And if it wasn't a decal I liked, I'd paint something. Yeah, it was one of those things back in the day. We didn't have video games. You had to make your entertainment to a certain extent, and so model building was something I got from my dad. My dad made the metal ones. He did a lot of Packards. So I got into it, and I learned to be meticulous and careful when I painted things. And so having studied graphic design, I was in public school, and I wasn't known for my academic. I was known for being the artist of the class. So growing up, art was my best friend all the way through public school and through high school. And when I went to community college, it was graphic design. And I did very well there. I was with people that were somewhat like-minded, but besides I'm head and shoulders taller than everybody else, I was pretty entertained to be able to stand above. So it bode me well. It was something I liked, and we didn't learn computer graphics. It was all hand done. So when I get into something like Corel Draw, it was about the last computer software that I dealt with, Adobe Illustrator, back when they were low numbers. And so I took to it like a duck to water. I really pushed it as far as I could go with the graphics card in the limits of my PC. And then later down the road, here comes a console that you can paint a car on, and you don't need to keep your graphics cards up to date and push the envelope and spend a lot of money on a PC every 2 years. So what's really helped is the evolution of the editor. Like, the one thing I can talk about right now, because we're talking about it, is the fact that we can change the matte and the gloss on your layers. Now, you have to do all the layers. When I went into it, I was like, oh goody, I could have this layer, this matte, I could have no, it doesn't work that way. So you still have the body. You could do the body in a shine and have the flat vinyls on it. Well, or layers. We'll use layers, or you can have the opposite. So and playing with the gloss and the matte is fun to do with ghost graphics. It really adds to the car with the lighting. Anyway,
yeah. Okay, so
I think I've deviated quite a bit from your question, but I think it's stayed within the parameters.
No, it's okay. You answer it and just answer a little more. Then I ask, but it's fine. It's always nice to when people like to talk and tell stuff, and then we know you a little more. That's the
Sure.
point of this podcast. So it's okay.
Yeah.
I like when people talk. So you said that you start playing Forza since the first Forza Motorsport. But when did you start making liveries in Forza Horizon? In a Forza game? I guess it was before in Forza Motorsport. I think
it'd be the Forza Motor. The first Forza Motorsport was my learning curve was pretty steep because I'd never used an editor like that before. It didn't really have anything that reminded me of Corel or Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
It was its own thing, and I started playing around. And for me to tell people that have never used the livery editor before is to experiment with shapes, and don't feel like you have to be a Picasso right off the bat. But I have said that you can use their decal sheet, which is at the first of the layers. You pick up a Goodyear or something and try tracing it. Try with the shapes. Try to emulate it or copy it, and that should help you get to know. There's quite a lot of shapes. There's a lot of abilities to skew, which is like stretch, change the size and shape. It matters. You can't just do this overnight. You have to start learning how to manipulate and how to lock it in once it's done and save it. And when you've learned that, like for myself, it's never been hard for me to see something and draw it. It's just part of my talent. And in this game system, the editor is pretty cool because you don't have to have a straight edge, you don't have to have a compass. All this thing is all intrinsic, and you can, like I call it jigging, like create something that allows you to do lettering in a circle. Like I'm getting a little bit out here, but like this logo, I did with different layers. I had a layer that had an arrow that pointed to where the letter that was going to move, and so I did an opaque, a clear or opaque circle that was centered on the same, and so each letter, I do the letter at the top, then I skew it. Next letter, skew it, and so it would keep it in the circular form. Things like that, jigging, using guidelines is so easy in this game. You don't have to erase anything. You don't have to be careful that you doesn't get printed. Like when I was a graphic designer, you had to be careful you didn't have something that was left on in any because when I was doing it, it was photo ready. So if there was a hair left on a acetate or there was a scratch in the acetate, it could show up in the printing, and that would be a mess. That would be, you have to redo a lot of things. So in this, it's just, to me, it's just fun. It's just really fun. And if you can learn what the shapes can do, because some of them don't move like or skew like you'd like. Some of the pieces don't quite skew like you would expect them to. So you have to learn that too. And the distortions in some of the cars can be a headache.
So for all these things that you have just said, so now I have my questions. So the first question is, so this, your logo, you created it in Forza in the Forza paint booth?
Yeah, Forza editor. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's very nice.
Yeah.
But did you had like more or less had you done it like a little drawing, or it was just that it just came up while you were there and doing it and
That's
creating?
the thing about this editor. I can think it in my head, and then I can play around with it on the screen, and
Yeah.
you can just keep working on it and tweaking it and and you just get rid of what you don't like.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. So it has actually evolved as I've evolved in the Forza games,
Yeah.
and it started off really simple because it wasn't the real Dr. Deluxe. It was just
Yeah.
Dr. Deluxe design
Yeah.
or graphic. I had room to put graphic designs, so I gotta
Mm.
stop touching my face.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah. So one of the cool designs I did was for Broken Vegetable. If you remember the snoot in the snoot in the lens of a camera, I did for him, and
Yeah.
he's taken it. He's got a silk baseball jacket with it on, and he's
Yeah.
got business cards, and
Yes.
he's
I
just
don't have it here so easily, but I also have
he
stickers
sent
with
me a
the
bunch of stickers. He said, "Dave, you've done all this for me. What can I do?" I said, "Well, maybe some stickers and a T-shirt." And he sent me
yeah.
this T-shirt, and I got a Broken Vegetable one too.
I
He
think I think that also Yarakon's son has a T-shirt with the Broken Vegetable logo that's made by you. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I did. I designed a car for Arrow,
Yeah.
for
That's
Yarakon's
true. That
son,
yeah.
and he told me that when he saw it and it was his, he ran through
Mm.
the house. Dr. Deluxe made a car for me. He was running all through the house about it, and it was just like
He was very
a tear
happy.
came to my eye that
Mm.
he was so thrilled. It was kind of cute.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the little things. I remember when you also created my car, the GT
Yeah,
Robi.
yeah.
It was very
I
nice.
did a
It's one time
I
in
did a
Forza
nice
Horizon
eye
4. Yeah.
in the lens of the camera.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice livery, and it was very nice to have my GT Robbie.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, it's now another game, another life, and
yeah,
yep, it's everything. So from what you were saying, so if I understood, you were saying that the biggest challenge when creating the liveries is to try to understand what you can do with each shape they give you.
yeah. If it's a car I've never painted before, I'd sometimes take. I'm trying to think if it's a second group, and it's a series of lines. It's a
Yeah,
series of lines,
yeah,
and I'll expand it. I'll color it green. The car will be black, and I'll drag that across the car and see if there's any distortions happening.
okay,
If the vertical lines, I usually do a grid, so it's like lines going in two
yeah,
directions, and then I drag it across the car to
yeah,
see if there's any weird stuff happening, and I mark where that is so that I can work with it, rather than make it look like I'm working around it. I'll try to work with it or try to
yeah,
avoid having fine lettering going through.
yeah,
So not all the cars, thanks to Forza, some of them are pretty good. Some of them you don't find out till you add a body kit or a piece,
yeah,
and I think a lot of us are struggling a little bit with the Forza series, where it looks like you can paint the rear spoiler wing,
yeah.
and when you go to paint it, you can't do it. And I
Okay,
found that the 350, the Ford Mustang 350 GTR, I
yeah,
forget what year, 2018, I think. I could paint the wing in 6, then I transfer it to 7, and I tried to paint it in Horizon 5, and I had to go back and pull out I'd actually make a livery just for that spoiler and then transfer it to Horizon 5.
okay, Okay. It
So
was
I just found that by accident. I stumbled on it. It wasn't something because some of the cars
yeah.
you just can't. Like even the window valance, like the design might have something in there, but then when you switch to painting it, it blacks out to either a white or a black. But you can't
Okay.
paint on it. Like the 599 double X
Okay.
Ferrari. You once you paint it, you can't paint that big, bold, beautiful spot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's maybe they will change it someday, please.
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, we will see what's
When this is
coming.
a passion, there's also passionate. What do you call it? Small fails on playground and turn 10. Pull up your socks.
So I think you have answered. I have another question, but I think you have already answered it because I was going to ask, was it hard for you to learn how to use the tools in the paint booth? So I don't think you.
It was a little time curve, but once I got into it, it was like a nice T-bone steak. You're gnawing on the bone in a few minutes later. So yeah, I took to it pretty quick, and it stayed with me. And then keeping on each of the games, I can see how it evolved. Because I remember one of the first games, you could actually paint the calipers, and they knocked it off, and then later on they brought it back again.
Yeah.
But the calipers isn't a big deal to me. Like it doesn't like make or break it. It's some of the other things. But yeah, it's nice to see that they're working.
And since you have been painting for so long, you have. So you have since the first Forza that we were able to have a livery on.
Oh yeah.
How much it has improved the paint booth? How much is better? What did they make that you like or you didn't like, or it's basically the same? And what you would like to see it in a future game?
I prefer a palette that we can move around rather than it coming across the screen in the same place all the time. And I think Duffman made a point. If anybody knows that the real Duffman, I hope
they know who he
is. The thing that we all seem to have a little trouble with is on the new Horizon 5, down the left side of the screen are these tiny little boxes. And if you're doing small lettering or small white, anything light like yellow or white on that white background, you can't tell where it is on there. You kind of have to mess around too much. I'd rather have something that if in the next version of the game we could actually have the ability to move something around so it's not in our way, or even move it off screen if we wanted to, or come in and have larger boxes that had the layer information on it. So that's just a little quirk that I think they could work out. But right now, that little thin line just doesn't cut. And we were so used to working laterally when we're doing our layers, and now we're having to do it like this. I catch myself sometimes putting something in the wrong spot when I'm doing lettering, grabbing lettering that I've made, and grabbing it and putting it in a weird spot. Like it's just it's a bit the tap in the head and having to get used to
I understand.
A different set of parameters, but I'm a professional. I can work with it. So
no, it's just something you needed to learn. Something new. You just need to get used to do it again.
It takes a little time. And you should, if you want to be a good livery designer, you gotta have to take all the negativity and the positivity and come up with something really good. You have to basically work around it rather than it defeating you because you can't make it do what you want it to do. So
I understand. So let's now stop a little with talking about paintings, and let's see. I noticed that recently you have been creating TikTok videos, And I
Oh
think they
yeah.
are very, and I really like how they look because of all the slides and changing scenes and music and everything. So what I want to ask you is, was it hard to learn how to use it to edit those videos, or with something that were already used? Because for me, it's a whole new world. I mean, I needed to learn how to edit for the podcast, and then when I started to make some TikTok videos of my podcast, it was, oh, it's a lot of new stuff again. So okay, let's try to learn. And
I
yes,
tried to keep it simple when I started out
yeah,
because I really didn't know how to adjust. Because there is actually there's a slide bar when you put the music in. You can get you can play around with the
yeah,
timing. You can play
yeah,
around with where you want to cut and splice, and that just kind of like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be that much involved with it because it's
yeah,
just a TikTok video. But I found the effects interesting because you can, when you add an effect, you push down on the effect you want and you hold it down and you can watch it going along the timeline, and then when you take your finger off, it stops, and you can also reset and see how that looks. So
yeah,
that was my tactile editing for TikTok. And the one who really got me thinking about it was Yarkon,
yeah,
because he was saying something about TikTok, and he would use it as a test for something he wanted to do in YouTube, in a YouTube video. And I think Yarkon's got a lot more PC stuff than I. So I'm just,
yeah,
whatever's on my phone or on my device I got here, the tablet,
yeah,
Galaxy E. So yeah, playing around with the effects was kind of neat, and I did that with that Ferrari 599XX. I found these shattering effects,
mm,
and the music I had selected had this do do do, and so like, just a minute now, I should, and so it actually ended up working well rather than me going, I know exactly what I want to do. No, I didn't. I just stumbled on these two
yeah,
components, the effect and the music, because I was still struggling finding music that I wanted to put in there instead of that same stupid song that comes on. Like, when anybody that's used TikTok will know, on the top of that screen you can click it and take it out of there. But if you don't, there's so many TikTok videos that use that same dang song. I'm
yeah,
getting sick of it.
yes, I know, yeah. I mean, if it's
But
someone
I
who spend a lot of time on YouTube, I'm not
yeah,
saying that I do it, but YouTube, no, TikTok,
yeah.
but
And being retired, I was
mm,
retired at 55. I'm almost 65 now, so that's a
yeah,
10-year period. Um, I got a lot of time on my hands,
yeah,
so this is great.
yeah,
I can
that's
dive
good.
into TikTok and make it my and
Yeah.
and command it to do what I want it to do.
I'm waiting for my when I get retired, so I have time, and still
Oh
I
yeah,
have another 25 years to work. So maybe I'll be there another
yeah.
soon.
You look like you're
Okay.
28. What are you talking about? That's another half a lifetime away.
Also, in 25 years, so many things. Maybe I will be here in episode 433 talking about Forza Horizon 20.
Yeah.
I think. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I just said I drummed too much now. Okay, so let's see. Do you play other games besides Forza? Okay,
We
let's
were
see.
going to
Talk
talk
with
about
me,
that.
Riley. Yeah, okay.
We were going to, because you were saying prior to Forza,
Yeah,
what other games, and this N64 game,
yeah.
Top Gear Rally, actually allowed you to paint cars, but it was chunky squares,
Okay.
like a light bright. If anybody knows a light bright, and if you don't, Google it and you'll have a good
Yeah.
laugh. But you can't do a circle. You can do a Lego
Yeah.
circle, but I mean, that even goes back to the Etch-a-Sketch. You know, you're trying to do. Everybody could do stairs. I can do stairs. Look at, I could do stairs, but you can't. You can't do a cloud. You can't do the sun. You can't. And the ones that are, they're probably taking them apart and they draw it on there, and then they
Yeah.
look what I did. It's the Mona Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah. But so it was a very simple way of making liveries in the car, because I guess it's from Nintendo 64, so it's
yeah,
from the 90s.
there were so many limitations with it. The colors were limited, but I played around with it and got some pretty good results for the period of time. We were talking like 1995.
Yeah.
Where some of you people out there weren't even born yet.
Yes.
So yeah, that was pretty entertaining, to be honest with you, being able to paint cars and race them. But it wasn't until Forza came along that you could actually race cars that looked like real cars, not like some imaginated cars here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty decent when Forza came along.
Yeah, but did you play also Atari games in Atari?
Yeah,
because
going back to Atari, I bought one. I bought the original Atari for one game only, and that was Pole Position. And this is a time when I lived at home, and my brother, who's a few years younger than me, and we would be up till 4 a.m. This is back when we were supposed to be going to school the next day and stuff. We'd be up till 4 a.m, and you'd have to take turns beating each other's time.
Okay.
And we were very competitive.
Yeah. But I just ask about, because then on Atari, the cars, they were really just many pixels.
Well, the funny thing is, you're in behind the Atari. They're the Formula One look, and they would have the square wheels. Like, I can remember kids back in public school who would draw cars from the back, and that's kind of the way they did it, unless they were doing a jacked up modification for a Square Nova or something. But yeah, the Indy one was funny because you could see in the distance there'd be the squiggly road as you're coming up, and yeah, it was just very plain. It was very flat, background flat.
Yeah.
The only feeling of movement was the road going down between the wheels and stuff. It was the accidents were hilarious. The accidents were just ridiculous.
Yeah,
which is another thing. Sony never had accidents. If you hit something and bash something up real good, they still look like they're in the showroom. Whereas Forza started doing their destructive and looked like they were scratched and dented and having trouble. And what I really liked about Forza Motorsport was they actually, if you wanted to play simulation, those damages would affect how the car drove. Yeah. Which also goes back to a game I used to play was it was Codemasters, and it was a game where you became a driver and you had to progress up to professional, but you had to go through the grassroots of racing, and that had a much more setup of the car. And when you wrecked it, their bumpers dragging behind you or whatever, it was insane compared to what Forza's touched on with just the cosmetic and possible adjustments to how the car drives after that. So
and it's different times, and now Forza, and that's nice. But thank you for talking with me and sharing a little about the Forza and all you do. All you do your work. I'm going to write in the comments, description of the video, the links where people can find you on the Twitter and the TikTok and somewhere else that you are and share your work. And I really hope you have enjoyed being here talking to me.
And if anybody has any questions or would want some help with livery designs, I've helped people before. You just have to get a hold of me on Twitter or even on Xbox. I check from time to time.
I will also put
And a
your
lot of
gamer tag here so people can find you on Xbox, and they can
yeah,
also look for your liveries in game if they
yeah.
want to.
And something I want to touch on is I've used the Forza editor exclusively for everything I do on like like icons and logo design and all that. I've used the Forza editor for all that, and it's pretty good. I don't do any what some people get this PC software where they trace on the screen. Well, I don't do that because I'm able to do it out of my head, and I don't have to buy a PC and do all that.
Yeah.
But for some people, they have to be able to trace in order to do something. So I call them technicians. They're not artists.
Okay.
And so there's a technique involved, but you still have to have the ability to compose.
Yeah, because I think even if I was going to do the way they do, I wouldn't be able to do what they do. So yes, you still need to have some talent, even though you have that slightly help with.
And I do replicas to a certain extent, but I like to put my little twist on them. And I really like experimenting on cars. And I've done that for Yaricon with some of his vehicles because I've watched his segments, and they end with a wheel spinning and all that. And he has an established logo, so I've been able to use it too. But so you can see some of that influence in the liveries I've done for him.
So
and his son.
That's it. And his son,
yeah.
But thank you very much again. And for you that are watching, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. It helps me a lot, and it's just a click. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you again, and see you in the next episode. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Take care.